Restaurant Unstoppable. What the most successful restaurateurs know that you don't. The future. So I'm reading this book right now. I think this is where the conversation is going to go for just Joe and I broing out and talking about like. So have you heard of the book Abundance?
Nope.
Abundance.
So tell us what is this book about?
So it's just the idea. It's about abundance. And
like having like abundance of anything like.
So the concept of abundance is just the abundance mentality, which is there's more than enough for all of us. So we by nature are very like protective. We store our nuts away so nobody knows where they are. We hoard, this is mine, because by nature we evolved to come up in some pretty rough shit. We had to be that way. It was built into us. But the truth is that the world is very abundant and there's more than enough for all of us. Mm-hmm. And if you embrace that mentality of abundance, then it's kind of like a paradigm shift, because then you start, the idea is the more you give, the more you get. Yeah. Right. And this is kind of that mentality that I feel when I think of making your business about serving your people, about giving to your people, about growing your people, that's going to come back around. And that's the other thing about when you make it about growing the people, the money follows, right? Like that mentality of abundance, it just kind of happens, right? Because you're taking care, this is a people business. You take care of your people, they're going to bring more people in. That means more money, right? Yep. So what's going through your mind as I share that?
Well, the whole money conversation, and we've talked about this, that we look at money like almost like blood, right? Yeah. Your purpose in life is not about blood, right? Like your whole thing, you don't walk around and be like, oh my gosh, blood.
I'm running out of blood.
But if I cut your vein right now and drained you of all the blood, you would die, right? So it's pretty essential, but it's not something that you focus on, right? And so I feel like the whole money part is something, obviously we have to have it. You got to be profitable.
Yeah. It's a responsibility.
It's a responsibility.
Yeah, it should be a core value, I think.
but it's not the purpose of, when you're growing, So I feel like, there's so much more to give people that is like a purpose. Yeah. Besides like the whole money system.
I guess where I'm going with this whole abundance thing, like thinking about the future, right? And I would love to encourage more people to have this mindset that you have. And the reason why I'm bringing up this book Abundance is because there's a lot of evidence that shows that the future is really bright.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And it's this idea that like when you think of abundance, if you look at like the world we live in, information is traveling faster than ever before. Are you familiar with Moore's Law?
No.
So Moore's Law is basically based off this idea, and it was this guy, I forget his first name, Mr. Moore, was working on computer circuit breakers or something. I can't remember. I'm not a techie dude, but it's something about the technology was like doubling, like the speed or like the amount of RAM or whatever was doubling like every 2 years. But it wasn't actually doubling. It was more exponential. But it was happening at such a small rate before that it wasn't really noticeable. But we're 30 years into this now, technology or so, 30 years or so into it now that it's compounding much faster. So things that we think are like 100 years away are really only like 10 or 15 years away.
Sure.
That are going to have huge, drastic impacts
like
on
robots,
society. Robots, AI,
yeah,
all these things. But the idea is like the world is very abundant and there's more than enough for everyone. So if we start making it about growing our people, like I think that's kind of like the keystone to like this mentality of abundance. It's all about paying it forward. It's all about making it about everybody because there's enough for everyone.
Yeah, there definitely is enough for everybody. I mean, and also like, we're on Chicago Avenue. We're hoping that restaurants open all up and down Chicago Avenue here. Like we're hoping this becomes the next Restaurant Row, because I think all ships rise with the tide. There's plenty enough for this whole block to be restaurant after restaurant after restaurant. And I want that, maybe it'll take some of our business away, but I think in the long run, it's going to boost our business up because we're all going to kind of become this like food destination spot.
Yeah. What do you think needs to happen in our industry for what we're describing to happen?
I think people need to realize that you can't just take advantage of people and kind of have this like, I'm going to pay minimum wage kind of thing and not care about the people that are on the front lines, like actually hustling and working really hard to make your business successful. I think they need to have this shift in their mind that like, it's almost like the servant leadership. Like, how can I serve my people to make their lives better than just take advantage, because I think like greed, back in the day, was like almost promoted, like our parents' age group.
Yeah. Stingy.
It was like greed was a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of changing now. And I hope it does, where people start really like, hey, I need to care for my people, and we need to pay them more. We need to make sure that they're making a living wage, that we're not just, out here just to make profit and, go sit on some boat somewhere.
Yeah. But I mean, the cool thing that they get into this book is this idea that one of the issues in the past in the workforce has been we've looked at people as cogs in wheels. Like, your job is to do the thing, and that's all your job is. Just do this thing, that's it. And we're limiting ourselves. And also, humans are being made to do these things that kind of take up bandwidth because you're working. Your brain's telling your hands to do stuff. You got to be focused on things, and that's energy lost. So much of our human potential energy is going into doing jobs. The thing, being cogs and wheels, and that energy is being lost, and that energy could be going to solving problems. The thing that's really unique about humans is that we can create. We can solve problems. We're creators. That's what we are. But when we're focused on doing the thing, our creative mind is shut down. So it's just this idea that, like, I think technology is a big part of what you're trying to, like, the future too, is embracing technology, not being afraid of it.
Oh, sure.
But embracing it and seeing it as, hey, if I don't have to pay a person to do this, that frees up time to focus on more important things, like finding more creative solutions, or freeing up that human potential to solve problems. So as I'm saying this, like, are you thinking of examples in your business?
Well, I was thinking of like how we talked to, like, you were saying like the cog in the wheel or whatever,
Yeah.
and the person just doing the thing. I mean, our message is really like, you need to do this thing and master it, so then you can level up and teach someone how to do it.
Yep.
And then, like, kind of like making it to where it's like, changing the story where it's like, you need to be so good at your job that you can share that with other people and then keep bringing yourself up.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Instead of, but I hear what you're saying about like abundance. Like, there is enough for everybody, and you can make these win-win scenarios for people in the business. Opposed to trying to be, take more than you receive.
I think another paradigm shift too is like when you're thinking about, like, you mentioned earlier that you'd love to be able to hire people and be like, hey, someday, like, you could own your own fry the Coop, right? And some people think to themselves, I would never give them equity in my business. But sometimes I've noticed that people that have the mentality that it's not 50% that I'm giving up, it's 50% that I would never otherwise get because I can't be there.
Sure.
Because I can't manage that store. So think of it as 50% you're gaining.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it alone. And I think that's one of the things I picked up on. And I love that, maybe not 50-50, maybe 49-51% model of just being like, hey, like, I will give you half of the store, but guess what? You own it. And I'm not worried about it because you came up through my organization. You're a part of our culture. Like, you are an extension of us.
And you know it. Yeah.
Exactly.
100%.
What's that make you think?
Well, I forget his name, Schultz, the guy from Starbucks,
Howard Schultz.
Howard Schultz.
Yep.
Thank you. So he had somebody asked him, like, if you can go back, what was some advice you would give to yourself, your younger self, like 30 years ago? And he said, success is best when it's shared.
Yes.
And
pie is better when it's shared.
Yeah, 100%. And like that, I think, is so spot on, And I, when I lived in California, we had a really nice place. And I was off of work for a little while, and I would go down to the hot tub by myself. Here I am in California, palm trees, covering my head. It's noon on like a Tuesday, and I'm like sitting in this hot tub by myself. However, I was like bored out of my mind, borderline depressed, but like here I am, like just enjoying this.
I deal with this all the time.
Tub. Yeah, but you're like alone, and it's like, I would love to share this moment with someone else.
Yeah.
And that's a stupid example, but like, when you like, if you made it, right, you get this huge mansion on top of a mountain, but you have no family or friends, like, there's no, that's like a terrible scenario. You want to share that success with the people that you love.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, going back to happiness, if you want to be happy, share your success.